Hey YouTube, Wes Spencer here. Hope you guys are doing awesome. I am coming at you from the beautiful New York City, the epicenter of the world. I absolutely love this city and love coming here. I am here this week on a business trip, meeting with some clients and truly enjoying my time. And while I'm here, thought I would bring you with me and thought I would share for you a little bit of a wisdom video. In today's video, I am going to talk about the top 10 mistakes that I see new investors make when it comes to investing, not just in crypto, but stocks and other things, and I want you to be able to avoid those mistakes as well. So I can't wait to share all of that and a whole bunch more coming right up. So the number one thing I want to talk about is lack of patience. You just weren't patient enough. And look, I get it. This world of crypto is really hard for us because it's changing constantly, ever adapting, ever evolving. There's new projects coming out all the time that you feel like you've missed out on. Some of your favorite projects, you're like, how am I supposed to keep up with everything happening around me? And those are legit concerns or challenges. And so what we need to do is be patient in our investing strategies. Understand a good way to really get involved is dollar cost averaging. I talk about this a lot on the channel. Dollar cost averaging is all about no matter what happens, this is the period that I'm going to buy, these are the categories I'm going to buy, and these are their percentages no matter what happens. And that forces patience into you. Also patience in understanding when to sell, when is the right time. I know so many people that buy at all-time highs, they panic, and because they don't have patience, they sell and they completely have a loss. Instead of just holding through those losses and understanding if I just wait long enough, I can get through that period of time. I can get through that loss and eventually it will recover. So I think the number one challenge for sure that many people have is a lack of patience. And number two, this is a big one as well, is you just don't understand the technology. See, everyone hates on Warren Buffett for hating on crypto. But one thing he's been consistent on from the very beginning is he's always said, I only invest in things that I understand. And he doesn't understand crypto, not at all. He wishes he does, but he doesn't. And so because he doesn't have that understanding, he's one of those people that simply, no matter what happens, is not going to be an investor in crypto. He's just not. And I actually admire that about him. I think it's important for us when we invest in a project that we actually understand what it is that we're talking about. You don't have to be an expert, right? You don't have to be like one of the developers on the platform by any means, but you do need to have some working awareness of what it's trying to solve, who's involved in creating it, where it came from, where it's going, the tokenomics behind it, all of those things. You should have some basic high-level understanding so that you can communicate it. And a good rule of thumb is if a friend asks you, hey, what do you like about XYZ token? And you can't answer anything about it intelligently that makes them go, okay, that makes sense. You probably need to take a step back and make sure you understand what you're getting into, because knowledge of a project is a very important component to being successful in your investment strategies. Otherwise, you're going to listen to YouTubers like me and you're going to completely go broke, because the truth is none of us truly know what we're talking about. And so it's really important to do your own research. And that's why it's my number two most important piece in an investing strategy. And number three, this is a big one too, is you fall for the hype. I mean, come on, let's be honest. We all see what everyone else is seeing. We see what they're investing in. And by the time the hype cycle has gotten to its full swing in any project, typically speaking, you're too late, right? Typically speaking, everyone has already gone through these motions and you're the last to buy. And if you're one of those FOMO buyers that's like, hey, everyone else is doing it, it's all the rage, it's all the hype, I gotta jump in that hype cycle, you combine that with not also knowing about the project itself, my number two, then you're gonna be spelling yourself some disaster. So it's really important for us to truly understand where are we at in the hype cycle and make sure that you're not buying into the hype. It may not necessarily be a bad idea to buy when there's hype. I'm not saying the two are always like negatively correlated, but I am saying it's really important for you to understand that you're not only buying from hype and because of hype. And that's why that is my number three. Don't buy the hype. And number four, it's very similar to the first one about patience. It's simply this: you buy high and you sell low. We've got to avoid that. And the thing about those mistakes is they're always an avoidable mistake. You don't have to buy when it's high. You don't have to sell when it's low. Dollar cost averaging, as we mentioned before, is one of the best ways to get through that hurdle and understand, look, I can't play the market like I think I can. And so many YouTubers and all these algorithms that are out there that promise to handle that for you, the secret behind all of that is, in truth, if they actually worked like they said they would, I wouldn't be sharing that with anybody if I owned those secrets, right? I would keep that to myself so I'm the one with the gains. And I think that's the truth when you think about it that way. So that's number four. Buying high, selling low should be be something that you avoid if you invest properly with the right strategies in mind. And number 5 is you just simply misread the market. I get it. It happens to all of us. We think we understand and think it's going one direction, and it's not. We listen to technical analysis that we think is rock solid and it makes sense, and we buy into that analysis, and turns out it's wrong. One kind of litmus test with that is look at where you get your analysis from. If it's always like it's looking back in the past and they're explaining and defending why it's done what it's done, it's kind of easy to do it that way. It's far more valuable when you do technical analysis and you're predicting the future. Like, that's what I want to see. The challenge is that's very difficult, if not impossible, to always be correct. And so that's why number 5 is just you misread the market. Be very careful about that. You should definitely have warning signs in your head anytime someone's trying to tell you this is the market and this is where it's going to go, from myself to anyone else that you may listen to. You don't want to be the one making that mistake number 5 of misreading the market. And number 6, you're not diversified enough. See, sometimes we get all into this investment strategy and, for example, we buy like only Bitcoin or only Ethereum. And the challenge we get to in a situation like that is sometimes we miss out on the diversification benefits that come by spreading out our risk across multiple different cryptos. And I think that's an important part in any investing strategy, even in the stock market. You don't want to be completely undiversified and focused into just one or two. You should spread it out. Now, it doesn't always have to be evenly. For example, you'll hear many people say I do 50% in Bitcoin and the rest of like the 50% split among other like altcoins that are smaller, and they may be smaller percentages, maybe 30% in ETH and 10% in Cardano and 10% in something else. And I'm not giving you numbers to follow, I'm just using an example. So I think this can be a lot of problems for us, which is why it's my number 6 is you're not diversified enough in your strategies. And then of course number 7, it goes right along with that, you're too diversified. And I know that sounds hypocritical, but sometimes I'll run into people that have diversified themselves and they've got like $10 in like every crypto that's out there. They go to Coinbase and like, I'm gonna buy them all for $10, and surely one of them will do well. It's kind of like going to the horse races as an old Kentuckian here and thinking, well, I'm just gonna put money on all the horses. The challenge with that is you're not going to win out in the long run. Sure, some will do well, but the vast majority won't perform like you want them to over time, and you're better off not being so diversified where you own everything. You really pick maybe those 5 or 10 that you really, really like, and those are the ones that you invest pretty strongly into. So I realize 6 and 7 are pretty, they feel like they conflict with each other, but it's important to understand there's a balance between being diversified enough, but not too diversified. And so you need to find that balance. You really need to stick to it. Now, number 8, and this is the tough one, and I see it happen more often than it should. You make the mistake of not securing your funds properly. And I've talked about this on my channel quite a bit. I've even got some videos, which I'll put some links in the description down below, which you can go and watch about protecting your crypto assets. So you have to understand, this is not like a bank where like some kind of mistake happens, there's a good chance your bank is gonna cover you. At least in the States, there's some element of that with like fraud and things like that. In the crypto world, you're on your own, and you're responsible for protecting your own keys. You're responsible for protecting your own operational security on how you guard your crypto. And you guys know I talk about this all the time on this channel, not your keys, not your crypto. And unfortunately, I see this happen often on Reddit. Someone will say, man, I lost everything in my Trust wallet. I don't know how that happened. It's impossible. Someone hacked it. And the reality is, it's less about some like unknown hack and more about a mistake you made. You actually fell like victim to a phishing email, or you gave up your seed keys. Maybe you responded to somebody and you didn't realize that it was not support. Maybe there was some kind of like malware on your computer that stole the funds or the seed itself, the seed key itself, or the private key. There's many ways that this can happen. And it's important to remember, if you're going to invest in crypto, you're on your own island. And it's very important to take that seriously. Never invest more than you're willing to lose so that you don't become the victim of my number 8 challenge, which is simply falling victim to some kind of cybersecurity fraud. And number 9, it's my wisdom coming out for the first time here, right? Is you didn't budget correctly. See, oftentimes when we think about crypto itself and you're like, man, I wish I had bought more like a year ago or 5 years ago, something like that, go back and ask yourself why you didn't. Don't just lament the fact that you didn't, but go ask yourself, why did I not? And oftentimes the brutal, honest truth is things like, well, I spent too much money at Starbucks. I spent way too much money on like Netflix and Hulu, or I wasted it all on whatever thing it was that I love to do. And I'm not hating on those things. I'm just asking you to think through, like, how am I managing my budget? See, oftentimes in reverse, when we look at this through the 2020 hindsight view, we're like, man, I could have probably made some budgetary decisions that could have made myself a whole lot of money. If you want an experiment with this, go to one of the Bitcoin dollar cost average sites and just say, what happens if, I spend $5 a week at Starbucks? And what happens if instead of spending that $5 a week at Starbucks, I'd spend it on crypto? You can do your own experiment and just go back in time on one of those dollar cost averaging sites and say, what would $5 per week, if I'd invested it 4 years ago, look like for me now? And it's one of those gut checks. So you're like, oh, mistake made, I can't go back and repeat it. And that's true. You can't go back and fix that problem, but you know what you can do? You can fix it today and moving forward. So you can make that decision to say, I'm going to cut out some areas of my budget that's going to allow room for me to invest in a more wise way. And if you do that, I think you'll see the dividends of now moving forward, because the best time to start something is now. If we couldn't have done it in the past and we've missed that opportunity because none of us have a time machine, at least start today. So that is number 9 for you, is you didn't invest properly. And finally, number 10, you didn't use all the tools at your disposal. See, there's a lot of ways you can earn without having to spend extra money. You guys know on this channel I talk about Celsius a lot as a great example of somewhere for you to hold your crypto, and while you're holding it, you're earning it. Or DeFi with staking. There's so many different cryptos now that you can stake and earn. Or perhaps maybe even like a crypto credit card. And I'm not advising that you go into debt over this, right? But there's some great crypto credit cards that are coming out that if you're already using a credit card and you've budgeted that pretty well, you can use that as a replacement for whatever else you're using as a credit card and earn based upon that. And at some point I'll do some videos on some of the crypto credit cards so you can kind of get an idea of which ones may be right for you. But the point is this: we should leverage and use the tools that we have at our own disposal. We should use that because it's super helpful for us as we're going down this journey to make life even easier for us to continue to earn more, even while we're just using the normal tools and the normal processes we have in place without spending an extra penny more. So don't be victim to my number 10, not using the tools that you have already at your disposal. You should put some time into researching what those tools are that you're going to use and use that for your own advantages. So there you have it, Wes's 10 mistakes you want to avoid in your investment strategies. I'm not saying that if you follow all 10 of these, you'll never go wrong, but I am saying that these are 10 of my time-tested and Wes-approved methods of success that have worked very well for me. I'd love to know what they are for you. I'd love to know what your strategies are. Any of those 10 that particularly resonate with you, any that I missed that you think you would love to add. I'd love to know your thoughts. Leave me a comment down below. I read every single one. I would love to know what your thoughts are. And hey, while you're here, if this video was helpful for you, you know what you can do. Hit like, hit subscribe. That goes a really long way for this channel. All right, guys, thank you so much.